Hi everyone, welcome to Thorrk Hot Takes, and this is my second video about StarCraft the miniature game. And today we are going to talk about everything there is to know about the miniatures of the game, which is by far the most important part of any war game. As usual, there is a lot of information out there. Unfortunately, that information is scattered throughout the internet, and I did my best in this video to gather everything in one video, so then you watch that video and you know everything there is to know about the miniatures. So, the summary of what we're going to talk about today, we're first going to talk about the model quality and where they're produced and what we can expect in terms of the style and the different the scale of those miniatures. Then we're going to talk about the full miniature range that we have right now, at least for the first wave of the game, which is going to be wave 0. And then we're going to be talking about the contents of the box you'll be able to purchase and at what price they're going to be sold. I don't want to say a big thanks to everyone who shared pictures on the internet. This is obviously very helpful as we don't have that many pictures coming from the devs themselves. Most of the pictures you're going to see on the internet are from people who took pictures of them on SN, notably during the convention where the game was shown, and also of their own miniatures they've painted. So first of all, we're going to talk about the model quality and the mode of production that the game went through. So basically in terms of model quality, we are talking about the miniatures are on a 32mm heroic scale, which is the same scale as the 40k models operates on. So the style is close to the video game, so we're going to have relatively stylized silhouette. We're not talking about super ultra realistic style. We are kind of I don't want to say cartoony because we're not quite there yet, but it definitely has a little bit more toward the cartoony in terms of like on the scale. So it is definitely a style that you may or may not like. If you like the way the models looks in the video games, you're probably gonna like the models in StarCraft the board games. In this case, they went very safe by going an approach where miniatures look really similar to the video game. Obviously, because they are miniatures and they obviously StarCraft being an RTS game, the models are seen from a very long distance. So obviously, as we're going to be seeing those miniatures from much closer, Archon Studio also needs to basically add some sort of details to the miniatures for them to actually look nice. And I think they did a really good job at this throughout. There's a lot of things that they've added to the miniatures that they are displaying on the models that are not visible or do not simply exist on the video game models, and that really had something to the minis. Models come in sprue, unpainted, and are a mix of colored and transparent plastic. So we're gonna get into more details about this later on, but obviously we are talking about when the miniatures are not pre-painted. You're gonna have to assemble them. You're gonna have to paint them, at least to some degree. And we can expect about the same quality of miniatures as Game Workshops, and they are using the exact same technology. And for owning myself some like a StarCraft miniature, I can tell you that the quality is well on par of Game Workshops, which is kind of like the benchmark for miniature wargame because it is the most famous and it is also the highest quality wargame miniatures you can have, at least on the mass market. Moving on now to the different color plastic that you're gonna have. So if you are getting the Protoss, they're gonna be coming into a yellow mustard plastic with some blue transparent bits for the energy fields and stuff. If you're getting into the Zerg, you're gonna get them in purple with mostly some green or transparent bits. Sometimes the transparent bits are of different colors depending on what they are. And the Terrans are going to be coming into a sort of metal blue color with some orange bits, notably for the helmets, for the glass of the helmet, and from some crystals, and some other models may have different colors as well. So what I really like about this approach of giving us colored miniatures is that if you do not intend to paint your miniatures, at least they are not going to be just gray. They're going to be of different colors, which is going to make the game a lot more readable. If you're playing, let's say, against two players who have unpainted armies, at least you can really clearly identify who are the blue And the fact that they are made of different colors of plastic, like for example these roaches, it's going to help you identify what type of unit it is, and it makes them look a little bit nicer. And if you want to push this a little bit further and you just want to give them like a wash, you can actually gonna be able to put them a wash on them, and they're gonna look nice. They're gonna look like board game pieces. It's better than just having them being gray. So I really enjoy that personally. Obviously, I highly encourage anybody who is going to get into StarCraft the miniature games to paint their own minis, as it really truly enhance the look of the game, as it also, of course, is a hobby on its own, and it's a very enjoyable hobby in my opinion. So let's talk about the different transparent part, which is definitely one of the main features of StarCraft the miniature game, is that this game is going to feature way more transparent bits than any other games we've seen before. And the reason why they're doing this is because I think it once again it makes the miniature looks nicer when it's unpainted. And obviously you can decide to paint the all minis but leave the transparent bits unpainted. Like for example here, this is an example. This is my own Zeratul, by the way, the one I've painted myself, which is the only miniatures you can have right now. And this is a painted version, and basically in the models you get a regular gray plastic one and you get a transparent one. I've decided to leave the transparent one unpainted, and to represent Zeratul when he's fully cloaked. So you can leave it fully transparent like this, and it looks really, really nice in my opinion for this very specific purpose. You can also decide to paint over the transparent bits, at least partially, and you're going to be able to benefit from some really nice transparent effects, and you're still going to be able to paint and you can personalize the miniature a little bit more like this. You can even like apply an ink just to taint the plastic a certain way without leaving out the transparency. The thing is like, if you don't want the miniatures to be transparent at all, you can simply just paint over it, and it will just be like regular plastic. But if you do want to have some sort of transparent effect showing through, you can actually do this. So it gives you an option. Now, obviously you can't turn a miniature transparent by yourself, like with any technique at all. So I think the options to be able to use that transparency for some really nice effect, I think it's just strictly an upside. There's no downside of doing this. This is another example here what you can do here. This is a Zeratul where the painter have decided to basically paint only half of the miniature, so it really looks like he's basically getting on a process of getting cloaked, which looks obviously very, very nice in my opinion. So moving on to the bases. So in the bases, basically most of the characters will have special bases that are with very highly details, and they look really, really nice. But most of the miniatures in the game will come with a flat base. Obviously it's always nice to have a textured base with some really nice scenery, but I have to say that this also of course adds more plastic to the minis, which also may make the miniature more expensive. And sometimes also one of the downside of having all those textured models is that it kind of removes the creativity of creating your own base, and it may lead to everybody having the same bases. So at least when it's flat, you actually have to do some work on it, and you're gonna have bases that are really your own. At the bottom of every bases, there's gonna be a slot for you to put a magnet on it. This is very nice. So you can actually glue a magnet here, and this is really nice whenever you want to transport your models. You basically can have cases that have magnetized bases, and then that means that the miniatures will just stick on the base, and that makes them a lot easier to transport without damaging them. Those of course bases exist with the slots for the magnet on it do exist already, but I don't think there's but you have to buy them like separately. I think this is the first game, at least the first game I know of, that's gonna come with already bases with magnet slots on them, which is really, really nice for people who want to do this. So obviously I've basically assembled and painted my own StarCraft miniatures. This is the promo Zeratul that you can get if you're going to conventions. And so I have actually a bit of experience with Archon Studio miniatures thanks to this, so I can give you firsthand what I think about the minis. I think that I was really pleased by the fact that assembling the model was very easy, while all the pieces fit perfectly well together, which is very, very nice. And the mini is very well engineered, and whenever you put him together, it doesn't leave any gaps, and it doesn't leave any mold line. I think the only mold line that I had was literally on the arm right there, Other than this, I didn't have any mold line to clean up, and this is just makes the process of putting the miniatures together so much easier and so much more enjoyable, and it gives you a lot less work. And this is the thing, is like every single miniature that is printed in sprues are gonna have mold lines. That's inevitable. But what the miniature engineer can do is like they can make sure that they cut the miniature in certain ways that to basically makes the mold lines in places that are not visible, or in a ways that when you assemble them together you don't see them anymore. And I think they did a really good job, at least on Zeratul. And if we honestly, if the rest of the range is on the same level of quality in terms of engineering as Zeratul, it's gonna be for flawless and great assembling experience, which is always very welcome. I also have to say that they've announced that the clear plastic that they're using is not gonna yellow over time, which can happen sometime whenever there's clear plastic. It's like it gets old and can kind of yellow over time. This is not gonna be, apparently they said that it's not gonna be the case at all with the StarCraft miniatures. So we'll see how it goes over time. But so far, of course, I've assembled this model about maybe like 3 weeks ago, and obviously so far so good. So in terms of production, a method that they use to produce the miniatures, they use high impact polystyrene plastic. So they use the method of injection molding, which is the exact same method and components that Game Workshop use for their own miniatures. And as I said, Game Workshop is pretty much the benchmark for high quality plastic miniatures. So this is obviously by itself extremely encouraging. As you can see, whenever you're going to be buying a StarCraft model, it's going to come in those sprues. Those sprues here are gray because it's the Zeratul miniatures, but moving forward, every single sprue will be colored depending on the faction. As I said, yellow for Protoss, purple for Zerg, and blue for Terran. But yeah, basically the same methods as for Game Workshops in terms of quality, and in terms of like the same process and the same quality of plastic as well. And what is also very, very important is that the minis are produced by Archon Studio themselves in Poland. They basically produce every single miniatures in-house. And that's a big, big, big deal, because there's very few companies in the world that can actually produce their own plastic injection molding miniatures by themselves. They usually have to contact third party to do it for them, a factory. But basically Archon Studio has their own factories. That's a very big deal for two major reasons. The first one is that it means that they can print miniatures however they like. So for example, we're talking about the pre-order later on, where they can produce on demand the miniatures. Another company wouldn't be able to do this because they would have to wait for the factory to be available. They don't have a complete freedom of production. They have to basically produce the mini first and hope they get it right on the amount, while Archon Studio can dynamically answer with the demand by simply just printing more miniatures, which is many companies just can't do that. They also means that they don't have to pay for a third party. They means that they can produce miniatures for cheaper. And I think this is one of the big blockers that has prevented many companies from competing with Game Workshops. But the fact that Archon Studio is going to be able to do that is going to be a huge element of their success in the game. So now that we talked about the quality of the model and the production method, let's go over the exciting part, the miniature range. What are going to be the miniatures that you're going to be able to purchase for the different faction? And we're going to start off with the Terran, with obviously the mighty Marines. So you can see here the Marines, when you're going to, whenever you're going to be assembling them, they're going to look like this. You got here a regular Marine, and next to it you got the Marines with the missile launcher on the shoulder pads, which is a special weapons that the Marine will be able to equip. So they're gonna have a few transparent bits in orange, and even you're gonna have some very nice gun effects that you will be able to have here. So the fact that they need to have the helmets in transparent bits, they basically enjoyed it and said, okay, we're gonna put all this stuff, we're gonna put some crystals. So even though the miniatures come with regular, just plain bases, they will give you some elements that you can use to decorate your miniatures, which I think is really, really nice. So yeah, this is basically how the Marines Army looks like. So there's a combat shield, which is completely optional if you want to put it or not. So this is another weapons that the Marines can have. This is the special weapon. I forgot the name of the weapon, but it is another alternative weapon that they can have, that they can basically equip. And this is the instruction here to assemble them. As you can see, so those miniatures are not fully modular. They are gonna have they are modular but not completely modular. You would not be able to do like, but you can do a certain amount of things. You got some walking position, you got just some standing position, and you get the instruction to equip them, and they also tell you the different options you can equip with grenade or rifle. This is how the miniatures looks like once they painted. We're gonna see the miniatures in different level of paint job. This is kind of a low level paint job. It's a relatively basic paint job here, so it's not the miniatures at their best, but even with a very basic paint job, they really do look very nice. So so the only criticism that I have towards the Marines is like, I would have enjoyed to see some Marines in kind of running position. Right now the positions are pretty static. They're either standing or walking. I would have loved them to have a couple of them at least running, because Marines in the video games are supposed to be very mobile units. So it's kind of surprising that we're not seeing a single one running. But maybe there's going to be different. They're going to release later on different variants of Marines that will be available later on. That you'll be able to paint, but currently the one that we're gonna get from the rest of the game, none of them will be in a running position. So this is the Marines here from the seen from the back. As you can see, the back is also looks really nice. So I think they look they look really fantastic in my opinion. Now we're seeing a Marine with a higher level of paint job. I think this paint job is much nicer. Puts the different details on the miniatures in a lot better. And we're seeing the clear plastic has not been painted. So you can see how that looks like if the clear plastic is not painted. And here we have an even higher level of paint job. Those Marines here look absolutely fantastic. And this time the helmet is painted, and it looks really great in my opinion. Moving on to the second units that we know of for the Terrans, could be the Marauders. So these Marauders unpainted. As you can see, they are really large models. And those are like Marauders that are painted in the style that you're going to see here. And once again, the clear plastic here not painted, just left as is, and looks pretty sweet in my opinion. This is the Marauder painted for SN. Those is a kind of low level paint job. Also, they did not put a hole on the barrels of the guns, which I think is criminal in my opinion. I think whenever you have a gun, you want to put a hole on the barrels. It looks so much nicer, and it's very easy to do. All you need is an hand drill, basically. And this is the Marauder's view from above. As you can see, the backpack is really large. And here we see a Marauders looked from the back. There's going to be a little transparent bits that you can be adding here that you can choose to paint or not. Here, I decided to leave it unpainted. Marauders with a different paint scheme, once again with the transparent bits not painted. And here we're going to see a higher level paint job here for the Marauders, where it looks really nice. But again here, did not put a hole on the barrel. That is criminal, especially for such a high level paint job. Takes you 5 minutes to do this. Less than 5 minutes. Moving on to the next unit, so just my opinion on the Marauder very quick. I think the Marauders is probably my least favorite looking unit for the Terrans. I can't really criticize Archon Studio because it does look like exactly like in the video game. But it does, but yeah, probably my least favorite one among them. On the Medics here, Medic is actually not a StarCraft 2 unit, it's a StarCraft 1 unit, but it's going to be in the game from the get-go. This is how it looks when it's unpainted. It's going to have green transparent bits. So they have the healing effect, cross on their shields. This is a side view. And this is basically with transparent bits not painted and a very basic paint job in white, as is the traditional color for the Medic. Here, a little bit more advanced paint job. I personally don't find the green healing stuff to be particularly nice looking, but obviously it is completely optional. You can simply decide to not have it at all, just cut it off. It's very easy to do. So if you don't like this, don't worry, it's completely optional. And this is a much more higher level paint job here. The Medic, you really truly see the level of details of the miniatures. They look just fantastic. And here they actually decided to paint the healing device. Once again, not a big fan of this sort of like fluid that comes out of it. Probably I will cut it off for my own minis. But as you can see here, this miniatures really looks absolutely fantastic. Now into our first hero unit, that's going to be Jim Raynor. There's going to be two variants of him, the one with his helmet on and the snipers, and the one with no helmet and just a regular gun. You can actually mix and match. You can actually assemble him with the sniper and with no helmet, or with the helmet and the gun, up to you. And I think it looks really nice. And also they have two different bases, which I'm not sure if that's going to be the case for the final model, because it would be weird to have two different base for the mini. But that's what Jim Raynor is going to look like, and he's going to be available in the founder pack. This is Jim Raynor in his blue painted. So this was an early prototype. That's why it's in gray. The one that you're going to be able to purchase will be painted in blue, just like every other Terran units. And we only have one picture of Jim Raynor painted from the founder box. And as you can see, it's the quality is very it's not great, because it's a very large picture, and so we unfortunately we don't have any close-up to him painted. Jim Raynor will also come with a point defense drone, so we see him in painted. The transparent bit's going to be the smoke and just this area here, the antenna, the top of the antenna. Looks exactly like in the video game. Looks really nice. The next model is going to be the Goliath. So this Goliath is not available in the starter pack or the founder pack. We got here a close-up of the full model. Looks really great in my opinion. Unfortunately, the paint job, in my view, does not really make it justice. It's a pretty basic paint job here. It doesn't do it justice in my opinion. And once again, the gun barrel not drilled. But the model though, really nice. Lots of potential. Another StarCraft 1 unit, by the way. This is a view from the back. And this is just a glimpse at it with a much better paint job. You can see already the paint job really enhanced the different part of the model. Unfortunately, the picture it's only a small glimpse. We got it in the background of the picture, so can't really have a clear view on it, unfortunately. So yeah, it's just a really great model, and probably this is going to be the largest model available for the Terran. And there's going to be another model that we got a glimpse of, and this is going to be the siege tank, and we can see it here, just in the bottom of the miniature. Apparently the siege tank is in siege mode. You know, siege tanks are basically vehicles that can put themselves in tank mode where they roll, or they can put themselves in siege mode where they're going to be just like artillery. They're basically a tank that turns into artillery. And the very interesting questions that you might be wondering is, how is it going to be possible to transform your siege tank in tank position to siege tank position? And unfortunately, they haven't said anything. Actually, we were not even supposed to see the siege tank. It just happened to be on the picture. And that's why we don't have any clear view of him, because we were not even supposed to see it, because this siege tank is not going to be available in wave 0. It's going to be available probably in wave 1, I would guess. So the big question we're wondering is whether it's going to be two different models. We're going to have the siege tank in regular position and then turning into a siege position, or is it going to be something that we can actually transform by moving the tracks of the siege tank horizontally, and maybe change the turrets from the regular siege tank to the tank in siege mode. I think it would be the easiest way to do it. It also has a base, which can make things a bit slightly more complicated. Or maybe we're simply gonna have two different models. If the siege tank in siege mode is gonna be a different unit from siege tank not siege mode, or are they gonna be the same unit but just different transformation? We don't know any of this. We're gonna have to find out later on. Let's get on now to the Zerg miniature range. And we're going to start, of course, with the most basic unit, the Zerglings. You can see here the Zerglings with the wings. This strain of Zerglings are called the Raptors. And they obviously can move really fast. In the campaigns, they can even jump cliffs. I don't know if they would be able to do this in the major game. We'll find out. And here, you're going to have just the regular Zerglings without any wings and without any upgrades. And here we have the sprue, the upgrade sprue, and you can see the upgrade sprue for the Zerglings is going to be in full transparent plastic, purple, and there are going to be some wings on it, and there's going to be the body for the for the Swarmlings. And the Swarmlings are a different variant of Zerglings. Now we can see the Zerglings painted with a very basic paint job. And here we see some Zergling here climbing the terrain. They really look nice. A bit of a close-up. And here we're going to see a much higher level paint job on the Zerglings. This is the Raptors, and this one you see we have now a close-up on the Swarmlings, which is going to have this sort of element here on its top, on its back. So you can see here the plastic is not painted, and it does look really, really nice. I think the only part that is painted is just this this area here that is painted. Everything else is basically left transparent, and I think it looks fantastic. Another Zergling painted in a different way with a very high level paint job. I think it looks great as well. The next unit that we know of is going to be in the game are going to be the Roaches. So Roaches are going to be coming in two variants. This is I forgot the name. So basically this is the variant that when this unit dies, it basically spawns two small Roachling. So it has the green upgrade thing. The splitting thing, you like it or you don't like it, completely optional. You don't have to put it on. And this is a regular Roach with a relatively low level paint job. And this is the same Roach, but with a much higher level paint job. Looks wonderful. And as you can see, they are relatively large. This is Roaches with a different paint job. This one I look a little bit closer to how they looks like in the video game with a very black paint job. And you can see here a Roach in the foreground. It's a bit blurry, but this is basically a Roach in when it's burrowed. And here we have a size comparison between the Zergling and the Roaches. You can see Roaches are quite a bit larger than the Zerglings. So the proportions are really well respected in this game, I think. This is also another picture of the Roaches and how they looks like by comparison to the Queen. And here we have the sprue of the Roaches. Yeah, so we got the Roach in the regular Roach, the Corpser. So that's the Corpsers are the one that when they die, they spawn two smaller Roachling. And then we got the Vile. So three different kind of Roach, each with their own upgrades, and basically the assembly manual tells you what elements are for each. Obviously, you can't the visual difference between all three of those variants is not very big, so honestly, you can kind of assemble them the way you want. It doesn't really make that big of a difference. Little look at the Roachlings, which are going to be the mini Roach that are going to be spawning whenever the Corpser dies. And you got here on the background, you see a Vile that has the purple upgrade. And here we see the Roachlings, which are basically much smaller Roaches. And here we have a size comparison between the Roachlings and the regular Roach. Basically, the Roachlings are about the size. They have the same base as the Zergling, but they are a bit smaller. And while the Roaches are much, much bigger. So it's really great that they've implemented this on top. They could have just gone the lazy way and just do regular Roaches. I really appreciate the fact that they went the extra mile by including all different variants of Roaches and even going as far as including the Roachling as well. I'm guessing the Roachlings will be available from the Roaches box. So really, really great to have that. Next, we are going to talk about the Queen, which is one of my favorite miniatures of the range. This is our Queen unpainted. Even unpainted, she looks really nice. You put a wash on this, it's going to look great. And here a bit of a closer look. The back here with the green. It really enhances the look of the miniature even when it's unpainted, which I think is going to be great for people who don't want to paint their miniatures or don't have the time or don't have. Now the Queen painted, spreading her creep. Looks wonderful. The creep though is not an official model. It is definitely a conversion. It is simply like a custom made terrain. And here we got another picture of a different Queen with the bubbles that are not fully painted. I think he probably shaded the bubbles with some sort of but they still are a little bit transparent, so he hasn't completely covered them in paint. This is an example of how that looks like if you completely paint the bubbles and with a lighting effect. Looks really, really nice. And this is a different paint job here, much more grounded, much more realistic. Very, very high level paint job. This queen looks absolutely fantastic. And here we have a size comparison, and here you see the size comparison between a marine and a queen. So they've said that the marines are about the same size as the Primaris marines from 40k, from 140k. So already the marines are relatively large models compared to a human size model. And then you see it right next to a queen. The queen is really, really large. And I believe, and it's not even the largest models of the Zerg range. Then we got Kerrigan, which is going to be the hero available for the Zerg, of course. Probably the most iconic StarCraft character. Would be a crime to not include her in the first set. We have the painted version here, and we've seen another posture, a different model of Kerrigan, but this one is only like kind of a preview. It's a 3D rendering. It's not a real model, but obviously this sculpt is very much a sculpt that they could release as a model if they wanted to. I wonder if that's going to be the case. All we know is that this model here of Kerrigan is the one available in the Founder Box, and they've said that the Founder Box will not contain any miniature that is exclusive to the Founder Box, which means that this model that you see here is also going to be the one that you're going to be able to get if you decide to purchase Kerrigan in an individual box. So I have no idea what this second sculpt of Kerrigan is going to be for. Maybe it's going to be released later on down the line. Maybe it will be released as a promo model. We don't know. This is Kerrigan. When you look at her in comparison to the other models, you can see she's human size, so she's quite small. Which I think looks much nicer than in the video game. She's basically oversized and she looks a bit ridiculous, at least in StarCraft 2. But here in the miniature game, she's gonna have the size that she should have, and she looks really. But the fact that they put her on a little rock still makes it pretty obvious that she's a very important character. Another angle here on the character. I think she looks as good as you could have possibly made her. The pose is dynamic. The wings are really nice. It's really a great model. Next, into another great model, and it probably one of the biggest model that they're gonna make for the first wave of miniatures, and that's gonna be the Nidus Worm. So the Nidus Worm is gonna be coming with Kerrigan. So from what we know, the Nidus Worm is directly linked to Kerrigan. You won't, at least from what we know, which this could change, or later on they could release other ways to use the Nidus Worm. But from what we know, the Nidus Worm is an exclusivity of Kerrigan as a faction. So it's a really, really cool model. If people don't know what the Nidus Worm does, it's a transport actually, and it's gonna allow you to basically transport. This unit basically contains some miniatures, and you will be able to unload miniatures at the middle of the battlefield. A little bit similar to the big worms that you see in the Battle of Five Armies, the Hobbit movies. It's a bit in the same way, basically. This miniature looks absolutely fantastic. I cannot imagine a better way they could have represented the Nidus Worm. It looks absolutely gross, and yeah, I can't wait to paint that. So you can see here on the left hand side how I could unpaint it. This is a prototype, so it's going to be in purple, just like every Zerg model. And you can see here how large this is compared to the rest of the models here. Definitely the largest model available to the Zerg. Next, we got the Hydralisk, which is another favorite of mine. They look absolutely fantastic. I think it's really one of the models where really the models look so much nicer than what they look in the video game. And I think one of the big reasons why they look nicer than in the video games is because they have this long tail that goes behind them. You don't really see that in the video game because it would kind of mess up with the hitbox. But here, they don't have that problem, so they can really show how long the Hydralisk, and that gives them a really, really cool looking aspect. I also like the posture as well. I think they look absolutely fantastic. So you can see here the Hydralisk unpainted. And here we see some Hydralisk painted with a kind of an orange paint scheme. They look absolutely fantastic. Here with a more purplish paint scheme, as you can see how long they are. Really, really cool. And here with a much more advanced paint job, looks fantastic as well. So those are like beautiful miniatures, will be very easy to paint as well. And they look really, really great. So another cool thing about the Zerg is like every Zerg unit will come with a borrowed version of the unit. Borrowing your own units to kind of hide them is going to be a super important aspect of the Zerg gameplay. And it's really, really cool that Archon Studio is once again going the extra mile and giving us some actual miniatures to represent the units being borrowed. So this is an example of a Zergling borrowed. This is how it looks like when it's non-painted. It's going to be all purple. This is a queen borrowed. You don't see it very well, but that's the queen. And this is what we saw earlier with the roaches borrowed. Unfortunately, plenty blurry picture. But you get the idea. Every single miniatures in the game, most of the Zerg units will be able to borrow to protect themselves and to make themselves more difficult to hit. Next, we got the creep tumors. So there's obviously a very important aspect of the Zerg gameplay is that they have something called creep, which is called sort of a purple thing that goes on the ground, and this allowed to basically Zerg basically move faster on the creep. So you can spread your creep in order to make your unit move faster. This is what the creep tumors looks like. So basically, units that are moving within distance of those creep tumors will have a speed bonus. So what the creep tumors looks like unpainted, and this is how they looks like painted. You can see here the sort of like purple thingy going on. And here we got two different paint scheme on the creep tumors. They look just like the video game. They really look great. And once again, Archon Studio could have simply just asked her to put a ugly token on the battlefield to represent the creep, but they're going the extra mile and they're giving us an actual miniature to represent them, which I think is definitely the right call. I think in a war game, as much as possible, you want people to be using actual miniatures instead of tokens, and it makes the game so much better. Moving on now to the Protoss miniatures. First, I'm gonna start with the most basic unit, the Zealots. This is a Zealot unpainted running, and again, the transparent blue bits really make the model looks nice even when it's completely unpainted. And this is an earlier prototype of the Zealots in gray. So the official version will be in blue, but you can see here different posture, and also you can see their long hair. Apparently, it will be possible to assemble the Protoss with their long hair or their short one to represent their connection to the Kala, or when after they cut their connection from the Kala, which happens in Legacy of the Void. And they also have those very nice transparent bits which represent the shield of the Protoss. So this shield normally is invisible, but whenever a Protoss unit gets attacked, the contact of the bullets against the shield will show off, and so this basically represents the fact that he's getting this Zealot is basically under attack. I think it looks wonderful, and basically you can decide to use them, or you can decide to simply not use them, ignore it. They are completely optional, obviously. This is an example of a Zealot painted, and this one was actually used. So those don't worry, the Zealot will not come with such massive base. I think this is just because it's a special custom-made model where they were trying to they put an actual light where the explosion and the shield meets to make it look even cooler. But obviously the actual Zealots will not come with such massive bases. This is just a kind of a diorama example. These are the Zealots that were present in Essen. Their paint job is very, very basic. And this is a much, much better paint job here of the Zealots. You can clearly see them in all their glory with all their details. No shield shenanigans, just a miniature. And they look just like the video, and I think they look really nice. Another paint job on the Zealots with this time some transparent bits. I think this one This example looks even nicer, I believe. I like the gold a lot in this one. Which leads us to the next unit, the Sentry, which could be the other unit available to the Protoss. This one is an unpainted one. It will obviously, this is a prototype version, so it will come with a yellow, in yellow. And with every Sentry, you will have access also to force fields, once again, going the extra mile and representing the different spells. And the force fields are an iconic ability of the Sentry that allows them to block certain areas of the map. So obviously, I'm assuming that force field will do the exact same thing in a miniature game. You'll be able to use this to block movement. Maybe, I don't know if it will be able to block line of sight, but it will be able to block movement at the very least. And that can be a really, you can do some really great strategy with this to protect your unit from being shot at. You can protect them from being charged in close combat. And obviously the Sentry will be able to do that, which is great. And once again, always going the extra mile. They could have used it simply. They could have used tokens to represent this, but no, they are showing off the real miniature. And those force fields will look nice even if they are completely unpainted. But obviously you have the option to paint them if you want. Next we got, this is a Sentry that was painted for Essen. And you can see they are quite large here. You're seeing a Sentry here compared to a regular Zergling. They definitely look bigger than what they are in the video game. These are the Sentries that with a much higher level paint job that will be that will be available in the founder box. And yeah, moving on now to the Adepts. So the Adepts is the relatively recent unit that only got implemented in StarCraft in Legacy of the Void, but looks like they're gonna make the cut for the initial release of the game. So this is the prototype version in full gray plastic, and I think they look really nice. They have the special energy behind them. Basically, the Protoss have a lot of floating power, like things that are not supposed to be linked to them, and I think they did a really good job at making those look like they are floating behind them, even though they are not. And here we're gonna see a shade. So this is once again going the extra mile. Basically, the way Adepts actually work is that they can put a shade of themselves that you can control, and at any time they can basically teleport instead of their shades. So they have a fancy way of teleporting, basically. And this is apparently going to be completely working like this in the miniature game as well, because they've shown us already a shade of an Adept here. Once again, Archon Studio really going the extra mile here, giving us a full extra miniature. So the interesting part is, are we going to get one shade for every single Adept model, or there's going to be one shade per units? I think one shade per model would be a little bit too much, because that's a lot of extra plastic to put in the box, making those pretty expensive. But I think one shade per squads is definitely reasonable. Still kind of represent the same idea, but for much cheaper cost. This is the Adepts with the actual plastic, so how the Adepts will actually look like whenever you assemble them. And those are Adepts once they are painted. Unfortunately, the picture is not very high quality, but you get the idea. They look absolutely great in my opinion. Really, really nice. Moving on now to the heroes that we're going to be having access to for the Protoss. That's Artanis. This is Artanis unpainted in its yellow plastic, holding some sort of energy thing. And there's going to be two ways of assembling Artanis. You can assemble it with his energy field, or you can assemble it simply with a regular blade. This is a version of Artanis that is in gray plastic, but you can see here the details really, really nice from a different angle. Just like for the Zerot, you can have him with his full Kala connection, or you can have him with a shorter air. It's up to you how you want to assemble it, but both options will be available in the box. Artanis, so this is Artanis painted. Unfortunately, we don't have any high quality pictures of him painted. And every Artanis will come with a pylon. So the pylon is actually probably the biggest StarCraft miniature that will be available in Wave 0. This is the pylons once it's unpainted, with a giant crystal in the middle. And this is the version of this is the pylon once it's painted. It looks absolutely gorgeous in my opinion. And it's also very, very large. They didn't compromise on the scale, which I think is really, really great. And I suppose the pylon will not be able to move, but will allow you to teleport extra units. I can't wait to learn the rules of this thing. Really, really cool. Next, we got another very iconic StarCraft 2 unit. That's the Stalker. This is the Protoss version of the Stalker in grey plastic. As you can see, they look really, really nice. And this is another variant of the Stalker. That energy that you're seeing here, this is to represent the teleportation, because Stalkers are able to teleport. And you also can see the crystal with the laser coming out, representing on a Stalker shooting, but obviously completely optional. This is the Stalker with a relatively low level paint job. Just painted metallic gray with some blue bits. Still look nice. And you can see here how big they are compared to the Marines. They're definitely bigger compared when you look at them in the video games. They are definitely not as big. Here they're really, really large compared to regular units. This is Stalkers once they're painted. They look those Stalkers here with the paint scheme look absolutely wonderful. And here we have a closer look, but this one does not have any blue bits painted, so it's a bit of a different paint scheme, but still look great. This non-metallic metal here looks absolutely wonderful. And here the transparent bits are not painted. As you can see, it still looks wonderful. Next we got another hero unit. So this hero unit will not have rules on release, and you won't be able to purchase Zeratul in retail. Zeratul is a special miniatures you can only get in conventions or by in convention basically. And so you can see here, this is how the miniature looks like whenever you put it together. But there will be another. So this sculpt of Zeratul is only a promo miniature that you can only get in conventions. But there will be a different sculpt of Zeratul that will be released whenever whenever Zeratul is officially released in the rules. So the reason why they're not giving Zeratul rules right away is because they don't want to give an unfair advantage to people who manage to get the promo. So you will only be able to play your promo Zeratul whenever the other Zeratul will be released with the rule set with it. So, and obviously if you missed out on the promo miniatures, we'll still be able to purchase the non-promo version of Zeratul. No problem. We don't know this is a rendering here of Zeratul. I'm pretty I would be surprised if this is not going to be the model that's going to be included for the other Zeratul, the non-promo version. But it hasn't been. Just keep in mind that this hasn't been confirmed. Maybe this cult is not going to be used at all, and there will be another cult of Zeratul. So this is Zeratul painted by the official studio of Archon Studio. This is a community member who painted that Zeratul. I think, in my opinion, is the best looking Zeratul I've seen online. And this is another version of Zeratul painted painted in the sort of Tal'Darim style. So obviously this is a war game after all, so you can paint miniatures the way you want. You don't have to paint them exactly how they look like in a video game. It's all about creativity. Okay, so we basically reviewed every single model that will be available when the game first released. Obviously there will be new models being released, of course, relatively often. But now let's take a look on how much does all this cost and how do you actually purchase it. So first of all, we'll talk about the first ever StarCraft miniature that has been released, and that's obviously the Zeratul. This one is available for €30, and it's no longer available online, but it will be available at convention moving forward. So if you're going to a game convention, whether it's Gen Con, Adepticon, Essen, PAX Unplug, any of those conventions, you will be able to pick up those the Zeratul from there, and the special edition. And once again, if you missed out on this cult, there will be a different cult of Zeratul available in retail. So now let's get into the real stuff. The founder starter box. The founder starter box is going to be available on pre-order only. And the advantage of buying the starter box is that you get yourself an early bird shipping. That means this will be shipped to you even before the retailers actually gets their supplies. So this is the earliest moment you can get StarCraft Miniatures outside of the special Zeratul promo. And you can play a full game of StarCraft right out of this box because it contains everything you need to play. It has dice, it has a playmat, it has terrain, which will be unpainted, it has rulers, it has tokens, so it has everything you need to play the game. And I'm assuming also the cards, the unit cards, and all that good stuff. So just to give you an idea, this is a 1,000 points army, so we know that a standard size army will be 2,000 points. And this is a 1,000 point army of Terran versus a 1,000 point army of Zerg. So this basically means that to envision kind of how large a regular size army is for StarCraft, you can imagine basically double that size. That gives you like a good idea on how big an army is. So the content of this box is going to be 12 Marines, 3 Medics, 2 Marauders, Gym Rainer with the point defense drone, versus 24 Zerglings. You see some those are regular Zerglings and Zerglings with the wings upgrade. I don't know if every single Zergling will be upgradable or only 6 of them will be upgradable. We don't know that. But basically you get 24 Zerglings. That's the important part. You get 3 Roaches. I wonder if the Roaches will also come with the Roachlings as well, since some of them can be upgraded as Corpsers. They should be able to have the Roachlings coming with them as well. There will be a Queen, the Dynasty Swarm, and Kerrigan. It will be able to assemble Kerrigan on top of the Dynasty Swarm if you want to. And that's basically going to be the army. So it's a really, really cool box. And the question you might be wondering, what's the point of buying this founder box in pre-order instead of just buying it retail? Well, first of all, you're going to get early shipping. And second of all, this box is a really good deal compared to buying every single of those miniatures in retail. Just want to specify though that there is no exclusive miniatures in that box. All those miniatures here will be purchasable individually. There's no special skulls or special things. It's just basically a better deal that comes to early. And you also get a very nice box coming to it. So information now about the price of the box. The pre-order, so you only pre-order only early bird shipping, and it will go for $199, which is about 170 euros. This is obviously an amazing deal. Basically 2,000 points worth of miniatures, plus a tons of terrains, the rulers, the dice, and all this for only $200. That's a steal, in my opinion. It's a very, very good deal. It's going to be available for no later than 10th of March until the end of March. So 10th of March is really the last possible time where the pre-order will start, and then you'll be able to purchase the miniature, those founder boxes, the founder starter box, at any time until the end of March. It's unlimited purchase. There's no limit of like, oh yeah, you can only buy one of them or of 2. No, you can buy any amount of them. And that means that as long and basically they will, because they have complete control on their production, as long as people are buying them within that period, you will basically be able to purchase them. They will be able to produce them, no matter how many of them gets ordered. So there's no fear of missing out, because as long as you're buying this within that time period, you will be able to get one. So you're not going to be camping in front of the website. You're not going to be spamming the refresh button in order to be able to, you're not going to go through any of that headache. As long as you log on the website and purchase your founder starter box within that time period, you're going to be fine. It also means that there's no reason to basically for scalpers, like scalpers are not going to be able to basically purchase all of those boxes, denying people the opportunity to buy them. Scalpers will actually need to take a very big risk if they want to actually make a profit out of this product, because they will have to buy it and then sell it later on and hope that people will buy them. So it's definitely a very, very good move that they're basically, and that's the move that they would only be able to do this if they were not in control of their means of production. If they were in control of their means of production. If they didn't have control over their production, they would have to settle on a limit of boxes that can be purchased, because they will have to be settled in advance by the third party. But because they can produce any amounts that they want, they don't need to put any limit on the amount of boxes that gets purchased, which I think is really, really nice. So basically it contains 2 army worth about 1,000 points each, and basically the very big information here is that according to the devs, if you would buy every single thing that is in the founder box individually, like in the individual box, it would basically be worth $450. So you're basically making an insane deal. This also takes into account the terrain and the mat. But basically, yeah, that means that this box is really truly an amazing, amazing deal compared to the regular box. But you got to understand that this is considering you buy everything individually. But it was also said that the deal is a lot less significant if you compare it to a regular starter set. So this obviously, if you take into account the fact that the starter set, which are the regular starter set, the retail starter set, will not give you as good. They will give you also a great deal as well. So if you compare to the regular starter set, the discount that you get from the founder starter box is not as impressive. But that's to be confirmed because we don't know exactly what the starter set is going to cost. Free shipping in most places in the world, and there will be a special discount if you buy both founder box, because obviously this is the founder box for the Terran and the Zerg, but there's also a founder box for the Protoss. And if you buy both founder box, you're gonna get a discount. We don't know how big that discount is gonna be, but there's gonna be a discount for that as well. So that's an even better deal. So founder starter box, all the same rules that we had for the regular founder starter box also applies to the Protoss starter box. So you get pre-order only, early bird shipping, and this box will go for $109, which is about 90 euros. So not as great of a deal. You don't get, it's also a 1,000 point army, but because they're Protoss, you got fewer miniatures. But you get no terrain and you don't get any playmat on this one. So the deal is not as impressive as it is for the other one, because slightly more expensive, first of all, and second of all, you also don't get a playmat and any of this. You will get the tokens though necessary to play. You're obviously going to get force field to play your sentries and all that. You get your shades to go with your adepts and all that. So that's all good. But something to bear in mind though with Protoss is that Protoss miniatures are very, very large. The pylon is the largest miniature in the game right now. The zealots are also very tall. Just to give you an idea on how large the Protoss miniatures are, this is the size of the Zeratul promo miniatures. You can see here it's a very large model, it's bigger than your hand. And here this is a comparison of what the Zeratul, how big the Zeratul is compared to a Star Wars Legion miniature. As you can see, they are extremely tall. If you don't take into account the wavy cloak, you still find yourself with a very, very tall model here. So now let's talk about all the contents of Wave 0. So basically, there's going to be one. So the founder pack are only available through pre-order. So, but what's going to be available in store whenever you want to buy into Star Wars, into StarCraft? First of all, there's going to be one starter set for each faction. So here for the founder box, you get a common starter set for Zerg and Protoss, and it's going to be separate one for Protoss. But for the regular starter set, for the retail starter sets, it's going to be one starter set per faction. So maybe 3 starter sets. And the following units are going to be purchasable in individual boxes. So for the Terran, you'll be able to buy Marines in squad of 6, Medic in squad of 3, Marauders in squad of 2, Jim and his point defense drone, and finally the Goliath. We don't know how many Goliaths there will be in a box of Goliath, but we assume there will be one Goliath because they're pretty large models. That would make sense that there will be only one Goliath per box. For Zerg, you'll be able to buy Zerglings in squad of 12, Roaches in squad of 3, Kerrigan and the Nidus Worm, and finally Hydralisk. And on this one, it hasn't been confirmed, but we assume they will come in squad of 2. For the Protoss, you'll be able to buy Zealot in squad of 3, Sentry, we don't know if they're going to be 1 or 2 in the box. I think 2, yeah, really, it's anyone's guess whether it's going to be 1 or 2. Artanis and the Pylon, the Adapt, probably as well in squad of 2. And then Stalkers, and since Stalkers are relatively large, probably only 1 Stalker per box. Once again, all this is not confirmed information, but those are going to be the miniatures at least that are going to be available in Wave 0, which is basically the release of the game. So already here, there's a nice diversity of different units. You got at least 1 large unit for each faction. You got some infantry, you got some characters. So I think there's some spellcasters. I think there's a good diversity here already. It definitely makes the game. There's definitely enough miniatures here to make the game playable, I would say. So for the Terran starter set, so this is we're going to talk about the retail starter set. So the retail starter set has not been confirmed exactly, but basically what we know is that the Terran starter set would be basically the same content as what is in the Founder starter set, but without Jim Raynor and the point defense drone. So the content and price is to be confirmed, supposed to be, and in terms of price, they've said that it's supposed to be a slightly worse deal than the Founder box. So expect a deal that is worse than the Founder box, slightly worse only, but it's still going to be an amazing deal comparing to buying those individually. So if you start playing the game and you want to play Terran, buying a starter set of Terran, or even multiple of them, is going to be a really good idea. So it's going to have 12 Marines, 3 Medics, and 2 Marauders. Same deal for the Zerg. The Zerg starter set will basically have everything you see in the Founder box, but without the Nidus Swarm and Kerrigan. And so again, the content and price has to be confirmed. It's only early speculation. It's not speculation, it's based on what they say, but it has to be confirmed. Then finally for the Protoss, we are even more in the uncertainty. Content and price has to be confirmed, but presumably, according to what we've heard, it will have 2 Zealots, 6 Zealots, 2 Sentries, 4 Adepts, and they won't be Artanis, there won't be a Pylon, and there will be a certain amount of Stalker. Judging by the size of the Stalker, I would assume there will only be 1 Stalker, because then it doesn't make any sense. If they put multiple Stalkers, then there will be even more content in this box than it is in the Founder box, which doesn't make any sense. So I'm assuming only 1 Stalker in there instead of Artanis and the Pylon. And yeah. Moving on to what we can now, basically judging from all this information, we can kind of speculate on what is going to be the point value of an army, so the price of a full army for StarCraft. So for this, basically the amount of the dollar per point in the Founder box seems to be about $10 or 100 points worth of models, basically. Obviously, that depends on if you're buying a character or anything like this, but that's an average of $10, 100 points. That means that if you buy 2 Founder boxes, you'll be able to put together a 2,000 point army for only $200, which is ridiculously cheap. Obviously, you don't have a lot of freedom on what units you have then, but that's a very, very cheap price if you want to get into the game. For the individual boxes, the value seems to be around $20 for 100 points. They've said basically, this is basically a basic calculation of like, if there's a $450 dollars worth of content in the Founder box, that means that and in the Founder box there's about 2 armies of 1,000 points. You remove the terrain, which is Terran plus all the other bits that are probably worth around $50, you're left with $400. That's $400 for 2,000 point army, which leads you to $20 per 100 points. That's basically the calculation that we made. This obviously remains to be confirmed. That's why I'm using the word seems, because that's basically an observation coming from the information that we know. So yeah, from that speculation, price of the full 2,000 point army will be from $200 to $400, depending on if you use box deal or not. If you buy every single of your models from individual boxes, you're gonna have to pay about maybe $400. If you're buying only using box deal, especially the founder box deal, which is an even better deal than the regular starter box, then you can go as low as $200. Probably the right way to build an army is going to be coming in between of those. So probably you're going to buy a founder box to start to or a starter to kickstart your army, and then you'll be completing with individual boxes, and you're probably going to be landing around $300 for a full 2,000 point army, which is very, very cheap. If you compare this to what goes on for Warhammer 40k, it's a very reasonable price. If you compare 40k, an army costs on average between $750 to $1,000. Okay, there's certain armies that can go lower than this, but that's basically, and there's also certain armies that can go way beyond the $1,000. But basically, as you can see here, the price difference is just gigantic. We're almost looking at twice the price to get yourself a 2,000 point army, which is just a very, very big difference in value. So it's definitely going to be a way more affordable game than Warhammer, and that's not even close. So now the question is, where do you get those miniatures? Well, the pre-order will be available on Archon Studio website, and then obviously from that point on, the best thing to do is to talk to your local game store, try to build a community, so then you get to play the game and to have a place to play the game nearby. It's kind of pointless to basically pre-order and get yourself an army of StarCraft if you get nobody to play with. Kind of pointless. And I strongly advise anybody to kind of talk to their local game store so they can get the game, and then you can buy the game at the store and support your local game store, support your community, encourage your game store to actually make events. Always understand that for a game store to be interested in supporting your game, you need to be purchasing your miniatures in that store. If you're purchasing your miniatures online, but then you're not creating an incentive for the store to actually support your game. So also presumably, hopefully your store sells the miniatures at MSRP, at the same price as what they're available on the Archon Studio website. Obviously, for pre-order though, you don't have a choice. You have to go online. The founder box will not be available on retail. Okay, so now let's take a look here at the future. So for the future of the game, as you can see here, this is going to be the latest date for the pre-order to start, and then you will have until the 31st of March to place your pre-orders. After that, you're going to have the shipping that's going to be between that's coming on to April to May, depending on how far away you live from Poland, I guess. So that's basically the official release, right? April to May. That's when you're going to be receiving your miniatures, and shortly after, your retail store is going to receive its order as well, and you're going to be able to start playing the game and having fun with your friends. That's basically the official release of the game. In the meantime, rules are still going to be tweaked if needed, and the army builder will be available around this time, the online army builder, to be able to build your own armies online. In June, we can expect the wave 1 coming in, and we're going to have it's going to be called heavy support. A wave always, basically according to what the dev says, a wave will always contain one model for each faction. So for the Terran, we're pretty much guaranteed that's going to be the siege tank. For the Zerg and Protoss, could be a lot of different things. Could be the Lurkers, could be the Ravagers. For the Protoss, could be an Immortal. There's a lot of different options. But that's going to be the wave 1 in June. So even like 1 or 2 months after the official release, you're always going to have new release of miniatures. And then 2 months after, there will be a second wave, which will include additional heroes for each faction and a psionic unit. So psionic units are kind of the magic unit. So it could be the High Templar, the Ghost, the Infestor for the Zerg. And the heroes is probably, if I was going to make speculation, I would say this is probably going to be the time where the Zeratul will be available, and the time where you'll be able to play the Zeratul that you painted, the special promo miniatures that you have. That's the moment you'll be able to play it. Then in September, there will be the introduction of a narrative campaign. So StarCraft will not be only a game where you're going to be playing 1v1. They're also going to be a narrative campaigns coming out for the game, so that's very exciting. Designed by Sam Pearson, which apparently is someone who is known as he used to do this for game workshops. Then for Wave 3, that's going to be coming October. We're going to have our first flying units. Very exciting. Flying units are a very, very important part of StarCraft. And then we're going to have all the grand units being introduced, as well as more heroes in Wave 4 in December, right on time for Christmas. So that's basically new content every 2 months until the end of the year, which is pretty awesome. I think it's very important at the beginning of a wargame to introduce a lot of stuff, because you do need a certain critical mass of different units and options to make a wargame interesting. So I think it's very important at the beginning, at least, to have a very, very tight schedule with a lot of release. And then obviously, and especially the moment where players are going to be the most engaged with the game, this is where you want to release the most stuff. I don't expect this cadence to remain, because basically new stuff every 2 months, that seems to be really quick. I think it's perfect for the first year of the game, but then later on probably is going to slow down a little bit. Or maybe they won't. We'll see. We'll find out. No idea. And this is basically the end of this video. Thank you so much for following this video. I hope you learned something. I honestly would be very, very surprised if you haven't learned something throughout this video. If there's anything I got wrong, or if there's anything that that I forgot to say, please put it in comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. I would love to make more StarCraft the board game content, StarCraft the miniature game content, sorry. But that's obviously going to be possible if you guys support it. If I see the videos do nothing, I'll probably play the game but not make content about it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.